Second injury on the leg.
But wait, there's more!
I know what you're thinking. Guess what day it is? Welcome to our self-inflicted adventure. I'm Kiara and this is Adam. A few years ago, we walked away from our life on land to pursue travel and adventure aboard our floating home, the Millennial Falcon.
Last year saw us improving ourselves and the boat whilst we tackled our first Atlantic circuit. Join us as we come full circle back to the Caribbean, where we'll commence preparations for our next big challenge.
Last episode on sailing Millennial Falcon.
Alright, the next question is it straight?
Propeller shaft was actually bent. It was a pretty good time to actually spruce up the engine bay and the engine.
You're one broken bolt away from a 3-day ordeal.
We did discover this.
I'm digging, basically. There's quite a bit of rotten, water damaged wood.
That is just rusted all the way through. Cracks there, crack right here, all the way through here, completely coming off.
So, out with the old, in with the new. Just an old tap dancing injury.
I'm so sorry for laughing.
It's been a tough day. So we're approaching week 3 in the yard. Yep. We had a really rip-roaring start. We got way ahead and we were both starting to be like, wow,
we're going to be out here in no time.
No time. Snap. Then the bottleneck of like waiting for parts sort of set in, and that's kind of where we're at now. So we moved on for some other things on the list
that weren't quite as essential.
And that's where all the trouble always begins. We had our bowsprit off, which was a win, because we're like, yeah, cool, we'll get the guy to acid wash it and check it out.
There were definitely a few parts that weren't essentials, weren't attached to the chain plate part, that we thought should get re-welded, but the rest of it didn't look too bad. Now bear in mind this is also a 40-year-old chain plate.
And if it's not obvious yet, as it turns out, it was kaput. We've just come back from the fabricator.
Yep.
And he's straight away, he's acid bathed it over the weekend. He said, right, yep, that's stuffed. I wouldn't go sailing with that. And he very correctly pointed out some stress fractures that were working their way across the mid plate sort of bolt hole section, which is just, there's nothing you can do about it. It's beyond repair. It's a big job. A big job we didn't expect to be quite so big, and not one we can ignore or bootstrap. So that's kind of a fair bit of money out of the kitty gone begging, and a fair bit of extra time probably.
Yeah.
Which puts our future plans on the ropes.
What else is
But wait, there's more. If you sign on for $5.95 in the next 3 minutes, you'll receive some rotten wood.
Oh yes.
So I've been overhauling the engine bay, trying to like paint and seal the walls and just cleaning it up generally, redoing the wiring, putting some reflective shielding in there, heat shielding and soundproofing, just to spruce the place up really.
While on his travels doing that, he came across a bit of rotten wood. I'd already seen a piece of wood and I'd kind of broken off, gone, oh, I need to replace that one. He delved a bit further.
I started digging. When I was finished digging, there was just, oh, you can't see it. I'm not going to make a mess, but this is chalk. This wood is basically chalk.
So in case you haven't guessed, Adam has taken out all of the rotten wood, and our job is to now put better wood in there.
The job we hauled out for will end up being one of the trivial ones,
yep.
And all the trivial ones will end up being what holds us here for some time.
Okay, now we are whinging. I think that we need to get back to work. We just need to deal with this, and we just need to be our happy, cheerful selves that we are so good at. Just moving on with things.
Honestly, I wouldn't be upset at all if we didn't have icebergs to beat.
True.
That's what I'm worried about, is like slipping away. I can see it slipping. And I'm like, no! But these things have to happen. So anyway, back to work. Yeah, enough whinging for one day.
So really, what we're just waiting on, instead of us just sitting around and twiddling our thumbs, we decided that we'd start on a few extra projects. Now, I know what you're thinking. You've been there, we've done this before. Why the hell are we going and doing it again? And I really have no answer for you other than I just don't want any more teak on our boat. So this morning I've taken off all of the screws. So now all that's left is to just rip up the teak.
So we've just finished, I've just finished installing the timber basin of what will be the shower bilge. Kiara knocked that up with a jigsaw and some plywood and sort of nailed it all together while I was working on the compression post. And then she handballed it back to me to install in the framework that I've been building to sort of keep this bulkhead up, support this bulkhead and that floor, which was all rotten and water damaged and trashed. In fact, that's some of it. That was part of plan A, because I was this is the best of the beams, and I actually have just clear coated it thinking, oh, I might be able to just bring it all back to life. But I quickly decided that was a bad idea. And then the next job is to basically glass everything. Clear coat, thickened epoxy, and then some finishing cloth or some larger gauge cloth, so that the entire thing is just like bomb-proof, watertight. We are hoping to essentially just recreate what was here, but overdo it a little bit more. Like where there used to be sealant, I'm gonna put glass, and I'm gonna glass like further up the wall. Not here, but you can't see where I'm looking. I'm gonna, do like a 2-inch or 3-inch overlap up the wall, and then fare it into this stuff and paint the whole room really when we're done. So that even if you overfill the basin, or if it's sloshing or whatever, and the sealant has failed, it will never get past that glass and into the wood. Coming together really well. Like, it's taken a while, but yeah, it's kind of cool to see like timber work and framework that you've been working on for weeks come together into a structure that is going to be functional. It's going to work. We've gone from this rotten, horrible thing to this sort of cool box, glassed up, clear coated in a beam structure, and like, I can stand here. There used to be a big hole, and now I'm standing. So it's, it's cool to see your creation taking life.
So while Adam is in the deep, dark hole, I am going to come out in the brilliant sunshine and focus on the end of the finished product of the anchor locker. So it's looking really, really good. I've pretty much taken off all the teak, and I have started to fill and fare it to get it ready for painting. That means that I can also start working my way on to the rest of the boat. So I'm going to start sanding the center here. I'm going to get rid of this Dorade box that's on the front. It's a general source of leakage in the V-berth. None of us sleep in the V-berth. The extra bit of cushioning for the V-berth also sits directly under this Dorade. So the V-berth is a very kind of a damp place for us. So if we can try and remove some of the water that goes into the V-berth, i.e. through the Dorade, then we will do that. We've never used this Dorade box either, so just going to get rid of it. So that's kind of going to be on my list of things to do today. Pretty much starting at the front, working my way onto the back and the rest of the boat in order to start repainting, pretty much.
Let that dry, and that should be nice and strong, and then we'll fare that, put a few more larger and larger sheets again till we sort of fill this area.
You may remember in last episode that Adam had an incident involving a propeller, his foot, and consequently a pair of crutches. The foot turned out to be pretty badly bruised, and he was prescribed 10 days of rest and to not put any weight on his foot. It lasted about 3 days until he managed to persuade me that technically shower work and grinding the decks wouldn't be spent on his feet. So he happily got back to work, moon boot and all.
Second injury on the leg.
Well, yeah. I'm sanding the top decks with the grinder and a sanding pad, and like the disc just got caught under one of the deck organizers, and it shredded the paper and then leapt out of my hands and it jumped straight into my lap and like started bouncing around on my legs because I was on my knees, and I was like, whoa, get off, and then it started running, and it was like a comedy of errors, but it shredded the suit, it shredded my leg.
God, it didn't shred.
And of course I'm not particularly nimble. Yeah, right. I'm not as nimble as usual because I got a bump foot, so I wasn't particularly agile.
Let me do that with your fingers.
Your hands are no cleaner than mine.
Once we removed the rest of the deck hardware and ground off all of the old paint, we put down a fairing layer of epoxy thickened with microballoon to smooth out the surface before priming.
So other than just lying around on the job, what are you actually doing?
Because you're like, yeah, I'm working. What's the old workshop adage? You get a cable tie and you just zip tie your hand up under the car and have a nap.
I've never heard that, but that's a great joke.
Yeah, so the gas locker floor was all rotten and trashed because of bad drainage, and you can probably see, we previously built pipes, like snorkel pipes, into the deck so the cables could go through. There's too much to just have 1,000 little cable seals, and we found that putting a big glass pipe sealed into the deck helped the water not go down that way but go down the drain. And also the drain seacock is very inadequate, and it had an elbow bend on it which blocked, so the drainage in this locker has always been terrible. And subsequently the water had gotten into the wood and trashed it, so what was I doing? I was in here for something.
Doing the hydrovane bolts.
I was retuning the hydrovane bolts, just checking on them, and I noticed a squishy bit, and I poked it again, and started digging, and before you know it, I was cutting the whole thing out. So these are the two halves are tabbed in. This is the last piece. I've just got to sort of make sure it fits in here perfectly, and then I'll tab it in and then begin the massive glassing process of just making it completely bomb-proof from both sides, and then I'll fair it and paint it, and it'll be like I never did anything. Which is exactly what you want to hear after a 3-day job. But no, it'll be, I'm going to put better drain, a larger drain and a better seacock, larger seacock, or rather through hull, and I'm going to improve the snorkel, all the cables go through, and then I'm going to seal the top, probably with just Sikaflex or something. So all those things combined should mean that the gas locker drains very quickly, and the timber is sealed and remains that way.
Okay, it has literally taken weeks to get to this stage, but I think today is the day when we can actually start painting the decks. So pretty much the last thing that you would have seen would be Adam grinding the non-skid away from the decks, and since then it's been days and days, and probably about 2 weeks of just fairing and sanding and fairing and sanding and hand sanding and filling in the gaps, and then hand sanding some more, and then electrical sanding, and just weeks and weeks waiting for a little bit of rain, stopping the rain. Anyway, we are finally at the stage when I have taped everything off and we can actually start to put some primer down. I'm not going to do the sides yet, but I will do the center and I will do the bow, which is the majority of the work. Adam still wants to do a little bit of finessing on the sides, so I'm going to let him do that because I am sick to death of fairing. I cannot sand anymore. I don't think my fingers will let me sand anymore. They're practically nubs with blisters on. So, just need to mix up some paint and get cracking.
With the deck primed, sanded, and the brightwork sufficiently mummified in plastic, it was time to spray on the white.
Guess what day it is? It's the day that we're meant to spray paint the deck. Look what's happening. Hissing down rain. We have taken, I'm actually going to go as far and say a month to prepare the deck. Like a very, very, very long time. And we've tried to tip and roll, tried for hours practicing, didn't work. The very day that we've asked someone to come and spray paint for us, it starts raining. You couldn't make this stuff up.
Finally, the rain stopped and the sun came out. Once the decks were dry, the sprayer got to work.
Halfway through, trying not to tread in anything white. You hear the compressor going in the background, and Adam is helping him with any and all things that need to be helped with. I'm running around making sure that there are no bits of pebbles, gravel that we might have brought up here, dirt. So I'm frantically running around before where he goes, trying to lift up the rest of the dirt.
With the whites painted, our next step was to paint on the non-skid. But that's for next episode. For those of you who may be begging for closure on the 10 or so jobs that we had on the go, you're going to like the next episode, where we start wrapping up some of those loose ends.